Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Confident Retirement Podcast brought to you by LPF Advisors. I'm your host here, Kris Flammang. Joining me is my sidekick and resident certified financial planner, CFP, Collin Habig. Collin, what's up?
What's going on? Thanks for having me, Kris.
Yes, today we're going to unpack one of the busiest pieces of legislation, tax legislation we've seen in recent history in quite a while. They're calling it the One Big Beautiful Bill. We'll find out if that's actually what it is. But first, let's go through our disclaimer. The information that we're providing is our opinion and not necessarily that of our firm or the platform. We provide general information only on the podcast, not any customized financial advice or tax advice. Nothing should be construed as financial, legal, or tax guidelines or guidance. You should consult with your own professionals about your personal information and your personal situation. And today we're not endorsing anything or saying that things are good or bad or we're good or we're bad. We're just giving you the facts, what's in the bill. We combed through this and kind of pulled out what we thought would be the most helpful and what people would find the most helpful for them to know about. So, Colin, how big was it actually? How many pages was this thing?
It's big, all right. It's almost 900 pages, but don't worry. We're here to break it down into just stuff that really matters to our clients' wallets. So we're just going to cover over some of the basics and take it from there.
Okay, so let's start with the biggest headline. The Trump tax cuts from 2017, they were set to expire. What happened with the bill?
Yeah, so like you said, those were set to expire come the end of this year. So now they're locked in. That means most folks will continue to pay lower rates, especially middle to upper middle income earners, which is perfect.
Okay, and what's changing as far as the estate tax exemption?
This is a big one. So the estate tax exemption right now is 13.9 million per person. Under this new bill, it's going to jump to 15. So that's a big difference. The current law was supposed to sunset at the end of this year, and
Mhm.
it was going to drop down to 6 million. But now it's 15 million. Anything you make from $0 or have in your estate from $0 to 15 million will not be, part of your federal estate tax. So for
Okay.
married couples, 30 million total indexed for inflation going forward.
Okay, so that should help. That should help a lot of people cover their bases. So that's pretty big for legacy planning and wealth transfer. I know some people were concerned, well, am I going to have to be gifting? Which they can still do that, but it
Right.
just means that less of their overall estates would be assessed any kind of an estate tax later on.
Exactly. So the high net worth families who want to pass on generally generational wealth, they get more flexibility now. There's no deadline for it, but there's definitely a lot of planning ahead for people.
Okay. And just on general income taxes, what about the standard deduction? Because that applies to a lot of people. What happened with that?
Yeah, so the standard deduction now is going to be 31,500 for married couples. Not a huge difference from what we saw before, but what's really interesting here is the change to the SALT cap. That's your
Mhm.
deduction for state and local taxes like income, property, sales tax. This is actually one of the biggest opportunities I see with respect to planning for our higher net worth clients, Chris.
Okay. So that kind of cap, that SALT thing has been a thorn in people's side, especially in high tax states for years. And so as you mentioned, it was capped and now that's gone up a lot. So what are some states typically that people were concerned about the SALT deduction?
Yeah, so states like California, New York, Jersey, a lot of our clients from Massachusetts,
Hmm.
especially where your property taxes could really blow past that typical $10,000 cap.
Okay.
So that's really the change there is that the new bill is raising the SALT cap to 40,000 for married couples and 20,000 for single filers, but only through 2029.
Hmm.
After that, Congress would have to act again to drop it back down to, for it not to drop down to 10,000.
Yeah, so it's going to go to 40 for married couples, 20 for single filers until 2029. After that, Congress has to act. If they don't, it drops back to 10K.
Bingo.
Okay. So it seems like a pretty big win, but it's also a ticking clock.
It sure is. So for the next few years, higher earners in high tax states will be able to deduct a lot more than what they, more of what they pay locally, I should say,
Mhm.
which could mean thousands in tax savings depending on your income and where you live, but it's a huge planning opportunity.
Okay. So if you're in those states, what do you think some of those people should be doing to rework their tax situation?
So, meeting with their CPAs, meeting with their financial advisors, looking at where their income is for the year, and doing some planning around that because it starts to phase out at 500,000 of income. So, if you cross over that 500,000, this, is then limited to you or it actually goes down.
Okay.
Uh,
So
go.
let's talk for a second about a lot of our clients, which are retirees. I saw something new about something called a senior deduction. So what's that all about?
Yeah. So senior 65 and up can now take a bigger standard deduction, 6,000 extra for singles, 12,000 for couples, as long as their income is under 75,000. Basically, it shields their Social Security from taxes, which is extremely important to everybody.
Okay, so that was where everyone was talking about no taxes on their Social Security. That's where that coming in and that's where that applies.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, here's something that feels a little bit more like it's targeting, or I don't say targeting in a bad way, but targeting in a good way for working families, and that's deductions for tips or overtime. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this is actually really unique legislation that was rolled in. So between 2025 and 2028, employees in tip-based jobs can deduct up to 25,000 in tips, and there's also a deduction for or of 12,500 for overtime or double that if you're married filing jointly. So that applies to a lot of the hospital workers, sheriff departments that we work with, so on and so forth.
Okay. So maybe there's some good reasons now to take on that overtime.
Absolutely. It's phased out for higher income earners, but working class families this is kind of a rare tax break that is going
Right.
to reward you for extra effort.
Yeah. And I thought cash was going down, the use of cash was going down, but I think when they talk about tips, this means cash tips and also tips that you get through a credit card, probably where there'll be deductions there and won't have the taxes to pay.
Sure.
So that's not really small potatoes there. That's a pretty big deal for those people.
Huge deal. Huge deal.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to this thing called the Trump accounts. What are those?
Yeah, this is a fun one. This is one that got everybody's attention just from the name, but
Yeah.
they're kind of like traditional IRAs for minors. Parents can start contributing for their kids before they turn 18, but withdrawals can't start until the calendar year that the child turns 18.
Okay, so it's not a Roth IRA, correct?
Correct, correct. So it's not a Roth. It's structured under the traditional IRA rules. Contributions are limited and they can't begin until July 4th of 2026. So it's a long game tool, helpful for teens that want to be entrepreneurs or working, but a quick note on this is each child has to be born between 2025 and 2028 to receive this quote unquote seed money of $1,000. So the government is putting in $1,000 for all the newborns from 2025 to 2028. And compared to other tax sheltered savings, the benefits outside of that thousand don't seem to be as great just because you're going to have to pay capital gains taxes if it's for a qualifying purpose, which is college, starting a business, buying a home, and if you don't fall under that qualifying purpose, it is then ordinary income tax to the minor or to the child, I should say.
Okay.
So it's a lot of planning around, 529s, brokerage accounts might be a better option.
Okay. So just for an extra $1,000, it doesn't seem like that's a compelling reason to try to have a kid in the next
Yeah.
3 years, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe for some people, but I'd have to put in a little bit more incentive there, probably for others. Okay, so basically to sum it up, it sounds like tax cuts for individuals, seniors, families, and businesses, but it comes kind of at a cost of potential higher deficits, maybe, and less support for low income programs and clean energy. And a lot of these things, everything's about trade-offs.
Absolutely. So, I mean, some of these changes are permanent, others expire in a few years. So it's smart to talk with your financial or tax advisor to figure out how these changes are going to affect your plan.
Okay, this might bring up some questions, but if you found the episode helpful, make sure to subscribe and share it. We know it's a timely thing. You could put this out to a friend or somebody else that you think might find the information helpful. If you got more questions about this or any other financial topics, you can feel free to reach out to us on our website. That is lpfadvisors.com. You can email us at info@lpfadvisors.com. We appreciate everybody tuning in. We try to bring you great content, and we'll see you soon. We'll see you next time. Until then, take care and be well. Thanks, Collin.
Thanks, Kris.
You've been listening to the Confident Retirement Podcast with Kris and Mark from LPF Advisors. For more information on them and retiring confidently, please visit lpfadvisors.com. If your ears are pleased and your mind is now at ease, do share the program with your friends and subscribe wherever podcasts are found.